Hey, what's up, you nerds? Welcome back to Yellow Spandex. This week we're talking about Tank Girl, but real quick we want to talk about this AMC thing because it's worth the conversation.
Yes.
What's up, boys?
So I guess Universal, I guess so. We don't know the exact number for Trolls World Tour. I think whatever the second Trolls movie was. Mm-hmm. But apparently it did so well that Universal's just like convinced that they should just keep doing it. Okay. Cause the reason we don't have the numbers is because I guess digital sales aren't reported like officially or don't have to be reported officially, something like that. So like that's the same thing with like Onward. Like nobody actually knew the numbers for it, but they speculated because of like where it placed on the charts, which was number one on every platform. And then it was enough that Disney started considering like releasing other things on digital as well, you know.
So these companies like are digital or releasing for themselves.
Yeah. So
right?
Universal did Trolls. Apparently, it did insanely well. Anybody with kids almost anybody with like small kids that I know, like got it, you know, to rent or to watch for $20 or whatever.
Man.
And so I guess it did well enough. So Universal said that they're going to try to start doing that. I don't know if it's with every film, but they said at least like it would be considered to it would be within consideration to release the film at the same time in theaters as at home in the future, especially with the way where we don't really know what's going on with the public and movie theaters and all that stuff, you know, non-essential businesses. So in response, AMC, I think he wrote like an open letter or something, like one of the CEOs or something, to Universal saying they're basically just not going to screen Universal films if that deal goes through or if they do that, which is extra interesting because in LA, there's a gigantic AMC theater in the middle of Universal Studios.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
True that.
Like when they said that initially, I thought it was just that. I'm like, oh no, this is just. They said all of their chains.
That's so funny. If they had if like next summer there's no Universal movies in the AMC Universal City Walk Theater.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah,
it's so weird.
It's wild. But I mean, I guess the thing is, we'll see. This is pretty new, so like. I think I just saw it either this morning or last night. I have no sense of time. It was either last night or this morning, sometime recently.
Oh yeah, it was like 3 hours or 5 hours ago or something that some of these people are reporting on it.
There you go, 5 hours ago. So like, it's I don't know because what I'm interested in seeing is if Universal comes back and they're like, we don't really need you to screen them. It does really good, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
like I wonder like.
They're all changing their strategy, so I imagine that this is just one of those things where they're changing it up because God knows if they'll even have any type of normalcy in the future.
Mm-hmm. It all kind of comes down to like how much like specifically Americans are like kind of willing to like work together kind of like on all this, you know.
Yeah.
Like I know there's like a lot of talk about like what's within rights of screening and all that stuff. I was talking to my relatives in Korea more about like what they're doing now and stuff, and it seems fair, but I was like, there's no way Americans would go for that about being like checked or tested before going to a mall and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, dude, have you seen on some of the stuff from China where like
we don't have the patience?
That is some scary 1984 crap. Like, I have a feeling that we wouldn't really go for a lot of that.
Well, and not China, Korea. So like Korea's thing is like way more like transparent. China's kind of hazy because everything's been hazy since the beginning. But with what my cousin, my aunt said is like, so at least to their knowledge, it's not like a GPS tracking or anything like that. Not like they're proposing with like Apple and Google and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What they're having to do right now is like there's these QR codes, and then when you like say you want to go into a mall or something, they take that temperature thing, they scan you in, it lets you into the thing as long as your record doesn't show that you've like, you know, been sick or something with it. Like, I guess it's just kind of keep like, if you were just in the hospital, you know, 3 days ago with it to keep you out or whatever. And then also it's a way, I think the Germans at some point did something similar to this. Like if somebody does get diagnosed, then they can track back to where they were like with like bodies of people.
That's
you know?
crazy.
So now this group of people can get tested or something, you know, so we can start like, so the rest of the world can keep moving. But then these like smaller groups can kind of get like pulled to the side and tested and stuff, you know. And they said that it's really not that big of a deal. Like they're not aware of any follow up on that, like where they need to like catch up with somebody. It's just there, so everybody kind of has peace of mind while they're out, you know. And it comes down to like, you know, Josh said last week, just like rigorous testing, just so like everybody it kind of signals to me. I'm not a psychologist, but to me, it kind of signals like as long as you know it's out there, you feel a little bit better about being out there. But at the same time, you're aware of things going on, so it's not like you're gonna like licking windows and stuff. You know, you know what I mean?
The crazy people licking doorknobs.
Well, even just like I just like there's the whole argument right now in the States of like, do face masks do anything? And I watched several videos with doctors about it, and they're like, listen, the absolute worst thing it's doing is reminding people not to touch their face and signaling to other people that something's going on. So if that's what it takes, it's like a little post-it note on your computer, like don't forget to send that email or something.
It's like a cone around a dog's head.
Yeah, I don't know, but. As for Universal stuff, like, I mean, they're totally. I hate like any kind of laws that would say they wouldn't be allowed to do any of it. I mean, that's ridiculous. They should be able to do whatever they want. But I feel like theater still isn't like something that's dead, and I don't think it'll ever all the way go away. But I do see them kind of moving to more like home releases, and I don't know. We were talking a little bit before the podcast started about it, and it would make sense to me to be like. Say a movie comes out like January 1st. They only got like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks if it's a giant blockbuster movie, before they start losing ticket sales, like bad enough to where they're not going to be in the theaters for very much longer. I mean, Endgame and other things were the only things that kind of stayed there for a significant time. While as, say, Trolls would not be there for very long. So at the end of the month, then you could, release it on digital, and then I know the month following after that, they usually release it on like a Blu-ray or whatever else. So I mean, to me, that kind of tiered setup would make a lot more sense than like, just hey, we're gonna release them at the same time as theaters. I just think that they're gonna undercut themselves as well as undercut theaters. It's a little bit like the comic book industry right now. They, want to Marvel and DC comics, the big comics, want to kind of start pushing out digital releases before their physical counterparts. Now that's kind of screwing over like the entire industry that they've had for how many years now? I mean, at least a good 30, almost 40 years of like actual comic book stores. So screwing over like those kind of people, screwing over like, Universal screwing over the theaters, that's not cool. And I don't understand why they would want to push for that completely, Yeah,
I'm not sure. I also haven't seen anything directly to see how aggressive it is on Universal's point, So the way the articles I read made it seem like they were in this fight or something. But I've only ever seen the response from AMC. So for all I know, Universal just said like, "Hey, this worked out great. We might think about it in the future." So they might not even like be doing it. They're just saying like, "Hey, now that's in our back pocket."
Gotcha.
Because I know they said that one of the reasons that Trolls was like kind of the perfect fit to try that with is they said the first movie didn't make a box office, but made like a crazy amount in home release.
Yeah, it went to Netflix, not unlike say Angry Birds, and they also had TV shows behind both of them on Netflix, kind of pushing, the stories behind those characters too. So, kids love, franchises. So I'm sure it would have been good for them just to release the second movie because of how well it did on Netflix and whatnot.
I'm not an expert in like the film industry. I know there's other things. I've been watching Beyond the Trailer a lot more the last few weeks because she seems to have a lot more understanding of like politics and money and stuff about like why. Because something that would make sense to me, it's like, well, they wouldn't want to do this because of how the system works or whatever,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can go watch her videos. She basically just says like she thinks things will be really wonky for like 2 years. But then it's just going to go back to the way it was, regardless of how well things worked. Because like every time the film industry's like made a major change, it's always snapped back to pretty much the normal thing. So she cited like the Great Depression. She was like a lot more people went to movies then than ever, but they were taking canned food as payment. It's like obviously we don't do that anymore. But it adapted for the time, and then as soon as it could, it just snapped back to pay more than like pay a lot of money.
Yeah,
go back.
I don't like I said, I don't see, especially since we've been cooped up for so long. Once the country, whether it be by the end of the year or next year, whenever we fully kind of get back to some kind of sense of normal, I don't see going out to the theaters, going out to. I know a lot of places are doing virtual concerts and all these other things. I see that kind of being like, hey. Let's go do that. We didn't do that for like half a year or a year last year. Well, let's go do this, So I almost see there's going to be like an uptick in going out and getting out once everything kind of seems to be passed.
I wish I had the money right now to open a drive-through theater, because I would totally
You just
open
swing
up
by, like,
a
see-
drive-through.
See like the 10 seconds of it and then come back.
You drive.
there was one down,
or
like,
not
it's
a
like a swap
drive-through, a
meet.
drive-in.
I like the idea of
Yeah.
a drive-through theater though.
Yeah, you only watch like
someone's
10 seconds, but you still pay anyway.
Well, so what you're saying about when people are going back to theaters specifically, I think is just going to be this weird little tango between the public movie studios and the theaters, you know? Because like it's not like, I mean, obviously the country's not united on this, the thought of it anyway, but like especially when things are like, okay, well now, because I don't think it's just going to be like, all right, everybody's loose to the races again. It'll probably be something like every other seat has to be empty, like it was right before, you know, it closed down and stuff. But also like the theaters could be open, but if the studios aren't putting out like $1 billion movie to, you know what I mean? Like it all depends. And then like, so if the public's, it have to be like the public's completely like, you know, on board to go out, but also there's a movie that they want to see, and also the theater is open. And if any one of those things are out, it's just, and it probably is going to be, it's just going to be like a period of time, I don't know how long, of just like syncing up that dance, you know?
Yeah.
Of like having the right. I heard a rumor that Marvel was thinking about like the first open weekend of theaters being open, doing like an Infinity War Endgame marathon.
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard the Russos are pushing for that.
And I know like Scott Nicewander was like, yeah, because the first thing I want to do after being cooped up for 2 months is go inside a dark room again
For 3 days.
Yeah, well, no, it's just the 2 movies,
Wow.
but still 6 hours.
That is a lot of time. Yeah.
I mean, I get the joke. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to be inside either. But also,
Why don't we just start now?
I could see both those movies back to back on the big screen again. That's awesome. Like that, I might actually be down for that. You know,
It
yeah,
should
I
be
feel
like
like
the days before the quarantine ends instead of like when it opens. I don't know why that makes any more sense.
well. So I think it'll be an event like that. Like if they do those, you know, especially if the theaters aren't going to have like the big movies out, you know. Like, say, Mulan's probably not going to open the first weekend that they're open because they're just like, we've already screwed this enough, right?
Right.
We want to make sure there's going to be an audience there, you know? So they'll probably throw another, like, Trolls type movie out, you know? Like, it doesn't matter if this loses a little bit of money. But,
That's true.
But if they open, like, if they're like, okay, so AMC is going to be open for the first time, you know, let's just say, I don't even know, but July, whatever, you know? For that 1 week, 4th of July weekend, let's be hopeful. I'll manifest it now or something. 4th of July weekend is our first weekend open. Theaters are back open or whatever. And so now we have the Endgame Infinity War Marathon. It take an event like that to kind of like get a mass out, you know, because otherwise it'll just be like, did you want to see Bloodshot, The Hunt? You know, like, or, you know what I mean? Like
Something disappointing.
so I think, you know, because if they don't have those, it'll have to be something like that. And, you know, in all the other like genres too, like let's do a Nora Ephron, like, you know, film festival or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that would
something
make a lot of
brand
sense
new.
to like bring out a lot of older movies to make up the time. I'm sure that, you know, all the stuff's been shut down for so long. Like I'm sure that everything's behind schedule. But yeah. I don't know. I see it kind of coming back quickly because I don't know. Personally, I'm a little bit more hopeful than most because we see a lot of this antibody testing and whatnot showing that there's a lot more people that already got it, and there's a lot of people asymptomatic. There's like an entire prison that has it, and 95% of the people were asymptomatic. So it was kind of like people that are actually healthy and young seem to not even like be very, you know, touched by this at all. It's really just people that are older that have, or people that have problems that seem to be touched by it. So I don't know. I'm kind of hopeful that, you know, this too will pass and we can get back to normal in the somewhat future.
it's definitely going to pass. I mean, I think it might be because I think we're, at least me and Vince, I think we're crossing like the 50-day threshold of being home. And I'm way past now, like maybe at least a week past, like even caring about any of the, like, is it real or not, or what the best treatment is and stuff. Just like it now, like I'm just kind of considering like, well, when are people going to feel, and when are business going to feel, you know, like that dance I was talking about, not just with theaters, just like when is Glendale Galleria going to feel comfortable about opening up, and then when are all their retailers going to feel comfortable, and then when are the people going to feel comfortable, you know, and how well
I think
is
it's
it
more
going to
the
sync
people
up?
because the retailers are like, yeah, let's get people back, you know. So it's probably going to be people like, I don't know if I want to come back to that job in the middle of the mall with millions of people there.
It'd be so stupid if they're like, I don't want to go in there because they don't have the 6 foot apart circles.
Yeah, but if we get all this antibody testing and it's like showing, New York had 25% antibody testing, which is crazy. So, which is probably why they got hit so hard. So if we get more of this testing going, I think we can kind of at the end, I got antibodies, so I'm pretty good to go.
So that's kind of like what's happening in Korea, to my understanding, from the people I know over there. But again, that level of, I think the number was like at least 40% of the population would have to participate. And it's like, there's no way you're going to get 40% of America to do all.
You can't even get 40% to vote.
They'll cite that they shouldn't have to take the test to prove something or whatever and things. But like,
I think they'd be okay with taking a test, but they're definitely going to be, if you try to force vaccinate them, I think they'd definitely throw a fit.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I just got done talking to somebody the other day about how the white tag on the yolk of an egg is like a government tracking thing for the coronavirus. And they weren't being sarcastic. They were like believing this. So I'm like, I don't know what to believe anymore. So like I said, that's why I think like a week ago, I just kind of like, whatever, that's happening. I'm ordering groceries. but now as far as like when movies, because I said to Vince the other day, it's like, I really miss going to the movies. So like I do miss it, but I don't know when the grand public, because it's not just going to be us deciding to go to a movie. It's going to be like us deciding to go, like I said before, like one of the theaters being open, and then the theater putting out a movie that we want to like go pay $25 to see. You know,
I miss Marvel movies. I'm finally like, it's been a long enough to where now I miss them again.
Yeah, dude, where the heck? I want Black Widow, man.
If I'm going to go to a movie, I want it to be a new Marvel movie.
See, that could be a strong thing if confidence is pretty high, theater's been open for like a couple weeks, at least or whatever. Because isn't that thing like they said if they open up and then there's not an increase for 2 weeks of cases or whatever, then we move on to the next stage and we keep moving in like 2 or 3 week increments. Yeah. So it's like if there's a couple weeks to go by, like theaters are open, they've done their rom-com and endgame whatever things to get people back in theaters. They're like, okay, we're good, and then drop Black Widow.
Yeah,
that's the way you drop, like do everything. Drop Black Widow, Wonder Woman, Mulan. Just have
Eternals.
it like have a free for all. Well, that wasn't going to come out, but all the stuff that was supposed to come out over the past the summer and the past months and stuff. Yeah, and just be like girl power.
I wanted to just drop it all.
Girl power.
Yeah.
This week we watched Tank Girl.
Tank Girl.
Was this your pick?
Yeah.
I genuinely like really liked it. It was as 90s as it could be.
Oh yeah.
Like it looked like to me, I checked a couple times to make sure. It looked like to me someone in 2019 making a movie about the 90s.
Yeah.
It was like they're so self-aware of what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like you got, a girl protagonist, you got like a girl sidekick, it's, directed by a girl. Like it's kind of crazy. Like it feels like it was done today.
Yeah.
It held up really well.
Oh yeah. I mean, I loved, I didn't read the comics very much.
I didn't even know they existed.
Oh yeah. There are comics. It's like 1988.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit like Ninja Turtles. But it was kind of an indie comic at first, and it just, it was on Dark Horse and Titan, and it was just, oops, bumped my microphone. But, it's great. And they actually got the comic creators with the director, and like they just kind of worked together. So it's very, very kind of close to the vibe of the comic.
Yeah, I liked all the transitions being animated.
Yeah.
Because I get that, it was in that 90s style where it was kind of like you have to hide the fact or give reasons why you're not doing all the special effects, Mm-hmm. Like in Mario Brothers or X-Men or something, we don't see lightning every other scene, and because they're like, oh, but he hasn't earned his power yet or something. They give some reason.
Yeah. And
so they kind of had to do that for this, but then like the little cartoons in between everything kind of kept the energy up.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think the mixture of both were balanced pretty well.
Yeah.
As far as like energy and the moving of the plot and everything. Actually, that was the more impressive part, was seeing how much they could actually pack inside of these little like animations to push this plot way forward to where we wouldn't have to waste the time live action. So it's nice.
So the only thing that I had a question about in the entire movie, well, actually, there's two things. One small one, one bigger one. One small one was there's this weird, I don't know if you know what me and Vince saw, there was like this weird edit choice in the middle of the movie where like, I think she was having a flashback or something. And so they like took this thing where they normally like, cut every other frame and then it flashes back and forth. But instead of being that, it was like 3 scenes that were flashing back and forth randomly, but they were all like, they didn't matter. And so it was like a weird editing thing. It was like, it almost seemed like a mistake for like a couple seconds. So, but Vince was like, well, maybe it's stylistic. I was like, you want to think that because they released it and they never fixed it since then.
Right.
But it looks weird. Like the rest of everything is like so like slick.
Yeah.
And stuff in this one edit, it was just like click, click, click. Like what happened there?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, that's weird.
There's a lot of small things that I caught. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of little tiny things. We'll probably get around to it.
Yeah, like this slow mo thing.
I didn't
at the
notice
end.
that one, but there's definitely a bunch of them. I just want to kind of like give like a quick. For one, there's going to be guys spoilers freaking everywhere. If you haven't seen this movie, rent it or buy it. It's on Amazon. It's on a few other things. It's a great movie.
The good thing about this movie, though, is unless you don't want to know anything about the movie, I think this one isn't really like a spoilery kind of movie. Like you pretty much get what's happening. It's just the ride is like a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's
You know what's going to happen, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, my favorite part overall is just watching. It's like flipping through a comic when you're watching the movie. It looks like all the scenes, and then part of it is animated, so it's like you get best of both worlds.
What were we gonna say, Josh?
Oh, I was gonna just give it like a quick overview of like the movie. It takes place in 2023. In the comics, they're supposed to be in Australia, but I don't know if they say that here. I know they mentioned New Zealand at one point in time, but Tank Girl is supposed to be Australian and not like New York accent.
It's 2033, right?
I thought it was 2023, but yeah, it could be either.
I think it's 33 because I remember looking at that. I'm like, wow, we only got like a little more than a decade to go.
Exactly.
That's where we are.
Blade Runner, and then this is next, right?
The comet, man, it's coming.
There's the world's got hit by a comet. It's kind of like after a world war kind of deal. Everything's desert and people are looking for water, and so there's like an evil corporation run by other people that kind of trying to control all the water. So anyway, yeah,
and it's the guy that he was like one of the bad guys in Heroes. He was like the main villain. What's the guy's name? Malcolm something.
Oh, he was in Heroes. Who was he?
He was like one of the people you didn't see on camera for a very long time. What was that guy's name?
Malcolm McDowell was it in Heroes?
Yeah, there you go, Malcolm McDonald.
Yeah,
I forget
what he was. I mean, he was like some ominous character in Heroes. But then Ice-T was just like Ice-T, but a dog. But that brings me to like the only thing that I was continually questioning through what are they? Like, because when they popped up, I was like, oh, they're puppies. And then like she called him a kangaroo, and Vince is like, oh, they're kangaroos. It's like, well, it sounded like she was just giving him shit because they're clearly dogs because he's holding a dog or whatever, And then he gave the whole backstory, like, well, then they spliced their genes with kangaroos. I'm like, so they're kangaroos, and then they jumped and everything, And then the one that just got done saying that he was a kangaroo was like, and that's why I was a dog that evolved into a human kind. I'm like, what is the story here?
It's so damn confusing.
So I don't know if there's an actual canon to that, and I'm just like oblivious to it.
I know they're like mutated kangaroos, but I don't know. I don't know if the movie is trying to say that they were once people because Ice-T used to be a cop or something.
Yeah.
Or if they were mutated from people, or I don't know. I just knew that in the comics they were mutated kangaroos, but maybe there's more of a backstory I don't know.
Because
weird.
In this, Ice-T was a cop, and then the dumb one used to work at a store or something because he was talking about like the job he used to have.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so they were people? Like, so I'm so unclear. Like, because they explained just enough to feel like they were going to explain a little bit more, and then they were just done. Like they were like, oh, that's when they experimented on us. I'm like, who is us? The people? Was it like, is it kangaroo? And they're like, I'm a dog. I'm like, you're a dog? What is this? And then they started howling. I'm like, so they're dogs. And then they jumped, and I was like, they're kangaroos. Are they dog kangaroo people?
Also, they do look like dogs in the face, but if you look at the comics, they definitely look a lot more like kangaroos.
Yeah, even when they cut to like the animations, they looked way more kangaroo-ish.
But it was just all the references that they made to both being dogs and kangaroos, and I couldn't tell if it was like an inside joke, but then they'd always like howl and stuff. So I was like, what?
Maybe it's like the whole like Asgardians calling Rocket Rabbit.
So that's what I was wondering. I was like, but if that was it, then they didn't do it enough to make me get the joke.
Yeah.
So I wasn't upset about it. I was just confused.
It was just enough to make you confused, yeah. Because the one was like holding a pound puppy.
Yeah.
When she was coming out of like the, being knocked out.
And for a while I thought maybe I was just like getting confused in my interpretation, but then they would like say in their dialogue that they were either mutated kangaroos or dogs, but they also used to be people with jobs. So I was like, you gave us information and all these things, but you could have left all of it out and I just been like, look, thing.
I also like that Ice-T, his name is still T.
T-Saint.
T-Saint.
That has to be his first movie. Here, I'm going to look that up real quick because
it's probably not his first, but it's just funny that that was like one of them.
Yeah, he was in New Jack City.
Yeah.
And that was in 91. And then he was in Surviving Game, and then he was in Tank Girl.
It's so crazy,
And
man.
Lori Petty, the tank girl, like I had no idea how much stuff she's been in since.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think she's in something that's supposed to be coming out like soon, whenever all this stuff is over. Yeah, you mentioned before she was in League of Their Own and
Yeah.
Point Break and Free Willy, all the '90s movies. But
Exactly.
she's a recurring character in Orange Is the New Black.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect for her.
And I've never watched the show, but and then there's a short film that either came out or is coming out called Dying Kind. And she was in a couple of animated shows. It's like there's
She
like
was
a
in
lot
the
of
Superman. She was Livewire, the super villain.
Gotcha.
Nice.
I remember hearing her because we watched all the Superman and all of the Justice League cartoons probably last year or the year before. And I was like, that girl sounds familiar.
So I did have a question with that because I was trying to look up the timing of this. It looked like she was clearly like playing off the success of the Gwen Stefani kind of fashion trend, even to the point where when she got knocked in the head and she got the stitches, it looked exactly like the dot decorations, like the Hindu things that Gwen Stefani used to do, And she had the bleach blonde and she had the, like very similar build and everything, like she was kind of like athletic like Gwen was,
Yeah.
or still is, but like. Then I looked at it, I'm like, the movie and like No Doubt broke the same year.
Yeah.
So-
and they
95,
filmed the
man.
movie the year prior, at least.
Yeah, so I was like, maybe it's just like it was just like was that like an OC look? Because I know like they're
It's the
from,
comics,
like,
man. Take a look at those comics. They started in 1988.
So
it's
maybe it
like
was the
this
other way
crazy
around.
cool steampunk, like,
Yeah.
looking stuff. I mean, it's just, I do get it. I was actually thinking the exact same thing. I actually Googled it while I was watching it. I was like, when did Tragic Kingdom come out?
Yeah,
like,
it was
same
95.
exact freaking year. Probably came out like a month after this movie,
So I saw the panels of the comics, and I can kind of glean it a little bit from there. But just the way they made the live action girl, like it looks like they couldn't afford Gwen Stefani. Like just because everything. I mean, like when they had the stitches on the forehead, I was like, that is so interesting that you just got that look. So you have those stills, But yeah, I don't know. Or like I said, maybe it was just like the sign of the times. Like we weren't in LA at the time. And so like I'm learning now from like old Hollywood stories that a lot of things I thought like had broke a certain year had been in LA for like 10 years or something, or in Orange County or whatever.
Yeah.
Like wasn't the whole thing about like the Valley Girls was like a thing here for a long time, and then someone put it on like SNL or some comedy show, and then it became like a nationwide trend or something like that. So I was like, so was Gwen just like an OC girl? All her and all her friends and all they were all kind of like this, and so it was the person who did the costume design and set design and stuff for this movie, and
I think
just
that
happened to
makes
see
a
it.
lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because my mind takes me to when I watch it. She reminds me of Harlequin, or Harlequin reminds me of Tank Girl. Like Margot Robbie like watched Tank Girl in order to get like notes to go into Harlequin or something.
So I actually thought about that like half an hour into the movie. I was like, if they had made a Harley Quinn movie or Birds of Prey or Suicide Squad in the 90s, she would have been Harley.
She rocks it so hard because like without even saying it, literally saying it, you could tell she's just like open sexually, open-minded, like not even just sexually, but just everything. She's like very like rides on any side, rides on the edge.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like Josh, you mentioned, like it seemed like something even just tonally was kind of made now. The only thing that was like a little bit of a shift was like I guessed it was supposed to be a big shocker when she kissed Naomi Watts. I was like, ooh, a girl on girl, But then right after that, it was like, well, they did include it, which was in the mid '90s, still a little bit taboo. But then also they had hints that Naomi was kind of like exploring her own sexuality, because she was like kind of like, we're pretending, It's like, oh, so she likes Tank Girl, but then like she see these guys and she's taking pictures of them and stuff. She's like, keep going. It's like, oh, so she's just learning what she likes. Like
She's like, yeah, now touch your
yeah,
put your arm up.
so she's like,
It's funny because like that whole scene, where she kissed her or whatever, like
yeah.
it's like, ew, gross. And it's like, what? There's not a guy on earth that'd be like, oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right.
That's the greatest facade of like the 90s is when everybody like thought like pretended that was gross. They're like, you think this is right? You don't. Yeah, okay, yeah, I think it's gross too, man.
The
Well, I
best
mean,
part,
he's also like a super sexual, whatever kind of dude trying to like rape this girl, and like, oh no, I have some weird, I don't know.
I just like that she's just as
Like, what the
freaky
heck?
because she who was it? Naomi Watts was like, it worked, and she was like, which part?
Yeah. And then Tank Girl, it was an interesting scene because it could have been easily and really bad because they were juggling, like Josh, you said, the girl like basically being almost raped, like Naomi Watts almost being raped, but at the same time we're seeing a super sexy dust bath delousing scene with Tank Girl, and then it ends with this like girl on girl kiss, in '95, and so it's like they navigated that so it didn't seem weird,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it worked really
because you were like, oh, she's so sexy. But it's not cool that she's getting raped. But then this girl over here is doing the dust bath. It's still sexy, like.
Yeah.
And then like they end with this like kind of not end it, but like it can't, like all the parts like kind of converge. It's like, oh, this is where they went with it. Okay.
It felt like a cartoon,
Yeah.
or a comic. Everything did.
They all.
I think
committed.
it's one of the most like true to comic movies, probably because they worked so closely with the creators, and I'm sure they even worked on the animation. I'd love to actually have time to go back and see how much they actually were involved. I was gonna say we talked about Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Obviously, Harley Quinn came way later, but they probably had something to do together at some point in time of the creation of Harley Quinn. But Margot Robbie actually has optioned to be have the rights to do Tank Girl.
Oh wow.
So they already made this connection.
Oh yeah, I think we actually talked about it on the podcast probably 5-6 months ago.
But the only other one that seems likely is oh wow, just lost my thought.
Jamie Presley, who was also Margot Robbie, or the girl that was in, or the girl who was in that one slasher film this week that everybody thought, or last year that we thought was Margot Robbie. What was that one that she marries into a serial killer family?
Yeah, I don't remember what the name of it.
It wasn't Knives Out. It was that's gonna drive me crazy.
Till Death Do Us Part. No,
It was something kind of like that.
Oh man, what was the other thing I was thinking? It was because like Harlequin is definitely something that the Tank Girl reminds me of. But I also got real hard feels on this other thing too that I can't really put my finger back on. Oh, it was Sucker Punch.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Sucker Punch kind of gave me the feels the same way this movie did, as far as like that female heroic kind of deal.
And also they both use actually every female empowerment like type of movie has "Army of Me" by Bjork in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great song. This was the first time I've ever seen a stripping number to it. That was really interesting. But when it was happening, I was like, why do more strippers use this? I've never seen this being used in a club, but it works perfectly.
Yeah,
because all the stabs like boom, down, boom, boom, and it's all like super like sexy beat and everything,
Yeah.
I think the Margot Robbie should not be Tank Girl.
Oh, okay.
I think like if she's in the movie, maybe just produce it. But if she's in the movie, she should be Jet. I don't know.
Jet.
It's the other girl.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think she's too close to Harley Quinn, and that it would just this movie will just get destroyed if it comes out and she's playing Tank Girl. I mean, not only
Jet.
by nerds who know and understand the comics, but it's just the same thing's gonna be seen by just normal everyday movie critics or whatever.
Right.
I think that she should either produce it, direct it, and have somebody else in it, or she could be Jet. That'd be cool.
I could see that, like not wanting to be like kind of pigeonholed into like this like manic, like anti-hero kind of thing.
It was kind of weird. I mean, as far as like the movies, like the scope, it didn't feel like a huge movie, right? Because it was literally just like water and power company versus this one little speck that they're trying to take over that has the natural spring under it, right? That's like the whole plot of the movie. So they're trying to get this spring, and they go and they wipe out her whole family pretty much, and enslave whoever was alive. Part of where I want to take it is that house that they raided, and like during the movie, we go through the camera, like goes through this whole house, and you're seeing all the sustainable things that they have going on, the water that they tapped into, everything. And then I was trying to make sense of the whole deal in this part of the movie when Tank Girl, she takes out that one guy in the desert, and he has that water jug, and I like turned to Rod. I'm like, oh, so I guess they
Just drink vodka.
or they just like, yeah, they think like water or as liquor now. And then literally the next scene is all of them with like blue flutes filled with water, about to cheers like some, crazy crap. And then that whole scene too of where I can't remember his actual character name. He goes and starts smashing the glass, talking about how they're gonna take over the road.
Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah, his character, and then he kills that guy. Kesley was his character name.
So the movie I was thinking about earlier is called Ready or Not. When you look at this poster, tell me that you don't just think it's Margot Robbie. Even during the movie, for like the first 10 minutes, I was like, "Is this Margot Robbie?" Oh, I'm sending you this link here.
The little end to that rant was to get to after he kills the dude or whatever. The raid happens. They all the bad guys, half of them get wiped out or whatever, and then Malcolm McDowell he gets that like surgery done with all the bionics and stuff done by the James Hong or something, right? Yeah, James Hong.
Yeah, wow. She looks very close. Is she related to Hugo Weaving?
I have no idea, but I remember Ready or Not. We were like, "Oh, we can't wait to see Margot Robbie in this." We even saw the trailers, and we're like, "Oh, Margot Robbie's perfect for this." And we went and saw him, like, "That's not her." Oh my god! Like,
her uncle is Hugo Weaving.
oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, she looks so. Especially this one picture I'm seeing on her Wikipedia. Wow, she looks very close to Margot Robbie. Maybe a mix of between Margot Robbie and what's the girl from Titanic?
Oh, Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet. Yeah.
I honestly though, between was it Samara Weaving from Ready or Not, Jamie Presley, and Margot Robbie, I almost think if you had a good enough makeup, just regular makeup artist, you would be able to swap them in the middle of a movie, and I wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
The three of those girls, because they're so similar looking. Like they all look like they're like the Wayans brothers. They're like different stages of the same person.
Crazy.
So I found a few things from the director and as well as the comics creators, Alan Martin and Jamie Hewlett. Apparently, Rachel Talalay is the director, and she complained that the studio interfered significantly in the story, screenplay, and feel of the film. She said she had been in sync and on good terms with Alan and Jamie until the studio made significant cuts to the film, which she had no control over. Apparently, when it went to the screening or whatever, they just kept chopping it until that. And I was gonna say later, there's a lot of scenes and a lot of transitions that just feel really kind of wonky.
So that's part of what makes me wonder. Was there some other backstory to these dog kangaroo people and stuff? Things like that. Was it just left on the cutting room floor because a focus group didn't like a scene and it happened to have a piece of that in there?
It's really hard actually that you bring that up, is that Johnny Prophet guy. We didn't even meet that dude.
Yeah.
He was I thought he was going to be such a big reveal, like it was going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger or something,
And he's the one who created the Men.
And but we just see his corpse right at the end,
and then they all scream like dogs, and it gets very confusing.
Yeah. And when
Tank Girl's horny the whole time.
So then she wasn't the only one. But the whole time, they keep talking about him. So I either expected not to see him at all, like he was just this legendary figure, or it was going to be a reveal of the biggest name or something in the movie.
So weird.
But then it happened, and it was so insignificant. They had to say, "Oh my God, it's Johnny Prophet," for me even to realize what the importance of the corpse was.
Yeah, who was it? Teespring or T-Spirit?
And then let's talk about those weapons. That thing that sucks the moisture out of a person's body.
That was
That's pretty cool.
Most awful thing I have ever seen in my life.
I was laughing, and I have never seen Vince upset in a movie like this.
And then the pipe was also very upsetting to me.
Oh yeah, I remember being really creeped out at the pipe when I was little.
Who would not be creeped out by a pipe that gets smaller as you go down it?
For those
and then
listening,
can also be filled with water so it drowns you.
Yeah, I didn't even think the water thing didn't scare me. That'd actually be oh good, they're drowning me to death. Being stuck in a pipe that gets going head first, with your arms together down this pipe as it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you kind of just get smushed into mush. That would freak me out.
Dude, I would
just in general to wait there till you die.
I'd spontaneously combust and my spirit would leave this realm.
It's so funny because it is kind of like so convoluted that it's like a cartoon villain's plan, but at the same time, it's not so spectacular that you're like, oh, that's not so bad until you repeat it to yourself what's happening.
Also, like, why? When did you build a pipe in your dungeon or whatever?
I assume that it was some sort of drainage thing.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to use this to torture people.
Yeah, that's what we kind of look like. And it's, it was also like a covert, like...
This used to be a McDonald's.
It's like a covert, like, Soylent Green kind of thing. Like, they're like, well, this is a drain pipe, but, people disappear here and stuff.
So weird.
But, like, he said, like, the pipe... It sounded like a plot to Austin Powers. Like, we're going to put you in the pipe. The pipe will gradually get smaller as we fill it with water. I'm like, that does sound terrible, but it is just not very spectacular when you talk about it. Mm-hmm. It's just when you're thinking of it, like, oh, that is really bad. Like
that's what I'm saying. It's so weird.
I was expecting him to be like, we're going to turn your body into water. We're going to extract you slowly or something. Something like time based like that. But it was like, no, they're just like reverse Chinese water trapping this little girl, like in a like gradually thinning pipe.
It was like a penis pump, but for little children. I don't know. That sounds horrible.
that was Vince Cirino, 2020.
Yeah. Random thought.
But yeah, but when they did the thing, when he stuck the thing in his back, the design was really good. It kind of reminded me of something in like Mario Brothers or something. Like the device seems convoluted, but they went to the trouble of showing like some details of how it would work. Like you see the blood fill up in the bottom chamber first, and then the water come up the top.
Yeah. Like it's filtrating it through the whatever.
And the moment that Malcolm's character picks it up, I'm like, he's gonna chug that shit. And Vince was like, no.
I started going blah.
And the whole time because he was teasing it, he was holding it but not drinking out of it. He was giving his monologue, and I was, he's gonna chug it. And then he said, wonderful. And I was like, he did.
He said, lovely. And I said, yeah, you sick.
Wow. Oh man,
I was like, there should have been more water.
Yeah, that's
from
true.
a person.
That was just out of the back.
Yeah,
but no, that's not
we
true.
saw it draining out of his hand.
Because you see his like fingers and his face dry up. It was like a Shang Tsung moment.
But also, like when Malcolm's character ended up having that happen at the end, it was like, how hydrated were you? Because they implied that he exploded.
Yeah,
dude, none of that crap made sense with the Malcolm Gladwell, whatever.
Malcolm Gladwell, McDowell.
Yeah, that guy.
I mean, I like.
Why did they have to cut his head off?
Say the plot out loud. I don't know. I guess it's in the comics. I don't know.
Cut his head off and made it a hologram, and then gave him like a reverse blender arm,
which James Hong gave to him, by the way.
Yeah, and his name I can't even pronounce. It was like Chitsuni or something like that.
So like and he went to go cut his head off with giant scissors.
Yeah. And he was like, is it going to be okay? It's going to be okay.
But also, like, there were other people around that didn't stop him.
Yeah, so weird.
They didn't question him, like, decapitating this person.
They're like, yeah, this is part of it.
And it was funny because I clearly understood that the reason they decapitated him is because he didn't like the way his face looked.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, what? No, that's not how that works.
And the whole time, like, they do this whole deal where they're not showing his face. They're not showing his face. And then when they do finally reveal his face, you forgot that they were hiding his face.
Yeah, I was like, well, that was a letdown. I thought it was going to be something like Dr. Claw or something.
Yeah, like he was going to look badass or like have a reverse blender face.
But then the reveal actually happened much later than you thought it would.
Yeah. And it was like, didn't mean shit at that point.
Well, kind of. At least it made sense that when they did that one gag where he tried to take a drink, it was like, oh, crap. Then they did it again when she tried to punch him,
The best was, when he actually showed that his head was a hologram. That was interesting.
I thought something that was interesting about this movie is coming from 1995, like 94, 95. They essentially gave her an iPhone or a smartphone. Like she goes in, there's a communication. There's a communication device that's not part of the camera, but she goes in with like a small handheld camera that's flat. It's really interesting, and she's live streaming to like these dog kangaroo people.
Yeah,
and it's interesting that they had the foresight to predict kind of that technology.
Yeah,
but the whole premise of that scene was that in 2033, physical calendars are still a thing.
Yeah,
it was just like, that's so interesting, like how we like perceive things, you know, like, oh, we'll have these mobile live streaming devices, but we'll still be using paper calendars.
That's right. After a post-apocalyptic comet crash.
Well, it's got a little bit of Mad Max, I guess, thrown into it too. I mean, where you got a little bit of technology left over, but people are piecing it together, with old cameras or whatever else.
It's like Planet of the Apes or something too, where you see like half of the Statue of the Liberty in the sand.
Well, I get the scene because to me the scene was kind of reminiscent of like Robin Williams as the genie. He references characters that had come like way after him, but it's just kind of like part of this like zeitgeisty like comic book moment, you know. So I was just assuming that he was like pose for the calendar, but I was like, where in this? Well, A, 2033 you're still using paper calendars, but B, where in this post-apocalyptic world are you gonna like mass print calendars to like raise money for something, you know? Like
you had also brought up that the camera flashes outside.
Oh my god! That's the only time I had anxiety through the movie because the rest of the time I'm just there for the ride, you know. And then it's quiet, and they're like, we have to send them proof of the weapons. And it's like, it makes the loudest shutter noise ever, and it flashes. And that flash isn't going to go that far.
It's not going to do shit.
Kids did. So if you didn't live through the 90s or the 80s, when you had disposable cameras or even just regular cameras, and your flash went off, and what you were taking a picture of, if it wasn't 5 feet in front of you, it didn't do anything but annoy people around you.
Yeah,
because it doesn't reach.
Looked worse.
Yeah, it highlights the dust in the air, so you get this foggy photo, like a film over what you actually wanted to take a picture of. So like if you went to a concert or something, and if you weren't in the first row, you might as well just turn the flash off because you have a better chance of getting something.
Yeah.
But like I saw this flash going off. I'm like, girl, like you're trying to hide. It's quiet. There's these things down there. Like they're taking pictures. Also, it's not doing anything. You're so unnecessarily putting your life in danger.
How many megapixels is that thing?
It didn't look very good. It almost looked like night vision
disposable.
or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, night vision.
So like, I saw some stuff here about the director saying there was approximately an hour of footage that was cut out of the movie.
Oh wow!
Jeez.
And in fact,
it's already an hour and 44 minutes.
And she goes on to talk about how kind of MGM kept chopping things up. Even the scene where we were talking about the pipe. MGM drastically destroyed that scene, even though apparently people in the theaters loved it because they thought that Lori Petty looked ugly in it.
Interesting.
That's odd. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
It kind of explains. See, I just chalked this part up to like comic book logic, but how like ornamental, like how detailed her hairdos were and costume changes, but specifically her hair. It was like you're trying to like survive in the desert, and then it cuts to the scene like, when did you have time to like do highlights and like put all that put the like
color in your hair
and then like do like little ties and stuff, you know? But I get it. It's like comic book stuff, but it was like, wow, it makes sense what you just said, because like every frame could have been out of like a No Doubt music video.
Yeah.
And it's
or
like,
a comic book.
That looks cool. That looks cool, you know?
I really felt that way throughout the entire thing. Like every single time they set up a new scene, I'm like, oh man, it looks just like it came out of a comic.
How'd you feel about the "Let's Do It" singing scene?
That was so weird.
Me and Vince just looked at each other like, what is going on? Like we were already so confused. And we weren't upset, but it was like, that's so wild. I mean, it fits now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But I liked the end credit version too, where they like the punk rock version. Was that Iggy Pop's version, you said?
I don't know.
Oh,
but
maybe. Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool. It was random, but then again, so was most of the movie.
Speaking of Iggy Pop, he was Ratface, was his character name, and he was the pervert that was trying to take Samantha. What was her character name? The little kid back for a good ride.
Oh, I didn't
also
notice.
The queen bee of that brothel place.
Yeah,
I can't. She's not in the credits. Like,
she isn't.
Or I couldn't find her in the cast.
That credit. See, this whole movie, like, if I didn't know these people before, I'd have been like, oh, so they couldn't afford Gwen Stefani and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah.
So they got.
But like this is back when, dude, Catherine Zeta-Jones had just been in what, like Rocketeer or something?
Yeah. No, I get it. But it's just like she totally like had that kind of vibe going on. Like,
I don't see her in the.
Wait, was it Subgirl?
No,
Subgirl is actually cut out of the movie. I think she's only in one part.
She's in one scene or two scenes.
Well,
Dawn Robinson? Nope, that's a singer. I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah, she's just not in this like Google search thing.
Apparently, with this "Let's Do It" singing scene, though, like I was like, why is this even here? Like, this doesn't feel right. It's kind of cut funny. It doesn't. deliver really on what it's doing. And apparently it's another scene that they just kept cutting shorter and shorter and shorter. Some of the deleted parts are like the little kid starts singing, and by the end of it, they're grabbing the guards' guns, and it seems to be like, oh, this is kind of a distraction to get the guns and get the guards. I was like, well, that would make sense, because at this point, like, it was just them singing and dancing until the bad guys came out. Like, I don't understand why you would walk up to the lady, sing and dance. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it was, to me, it was like a failed attempt of transferring that cartoon animation feel to film. Like, I think if it were animated, it would have played out like easily with the audience, like comprehending it as a cartoon versus comprehending it as a live action. I just don't think it hit the mark.
I think it definitely needed more comedy or something for, the reason it being sang, or, to give it
could have
meaning.
used like that Jim Carrey mask type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that that villain you're talking about? Was that Dr. Nikita?
I thought it was the madam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. That was who it is. The madam.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll keep looking.
But
apparently she's uncredited. That's crazy. Her name's Anna Magnuson, I think. So weird why she wouldn't be credited. I mean, she had a pretty decent sized speaking role.
Yeah, I know. Like
unless she's trying to like separate herself.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Naomi Watts subscribe. Yeah, subscribe while you're listening. Actually, she surprised me because it doesn't really look like the Naomi Watts that we all know, because she's just a kid in this movie.
Yeah, super young.
Even Laurie was older, I feel like, in this, because what was this, 95, and then Illegal of Their Own, she was like, she felt even older in that movie.
In A League of Their Own? That was like 2 years or 3 years before this.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, I think it was 92.
Oh, wow. Yeah, in that movie she felt, well, I know that at one point they aged her for like at the end of the movie, they obviously like moved.
Oh yeah.
To where they were older, but I don't know. Yeah, she seemed like she was a little bit older in this.
What's funny is Malcolm McDowell. He's always a bad guy or something. He looks like the same.
Like he does, man.
He looks like he's an evil version of Steve Martin.
Well, also he doesn't age, but in a different way than other people, because when normally we're like, well, Paul Rudd doesn't age because he stays kind of young. This dude stays what is this, like late 50s, early 60s, like forever. Like he looks like this now.
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong about this, or I'm coming from the whole like Steven Seagal was in Highlander universe, but I felt like he played the Antichrist in one of the Left Behind tries.
That would make sense. Are you guys looking up his IMDb?
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through it because this guy, he's one of those like super hardworking actors, so he's in like 100 things every year.
Yeah, he's been around forever.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I just got scrolling through like 2 years, and it's still like
Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, he played the Dark Knight on the Knowing Orange show. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, sad. Cool. Sub Girl was Ann Cusack.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Wish they would have given her a little bit more than that. She was supposed to have a big ending or whatever, where she kind of had her sub that goes through sand or whatever.
Yeah. The like Sub Girl, Jet Girl, even Tank Jet. Girl. You don't really hear Tank Girl call her Jet until later as well.
Or really getting her or calling her Tank Girl very much either. And I think I felt like it was way too long to get to the tank and the jet. Like it was like halfway through the movie before they got to that.
I was so happy with the jet.
That was a fun scene.
I was even more happy later on with the tank being like sentient pretty much.
Yes. I was going to ask, like, is the tank sentient or not? And when did that happen? Like, at first I was like, oh, it's driving by itself. And then there's like another scene later where she's the most fun scene where she's like fighting all those guys on the semi.
And she's talking to like a puppy.
Yeah, she's talking to the tank. Like,
I remember the whistling from the comics. Mm-hmm. She could whistle real loud, and then the tank would fire.
It's like a dog.
So they brought that, definitely, but they brought like way more too. I don't remember the tank being sentient in the comics. I mean, it would make more sense, obviously. So I don't know.
So Malcolm McDowell played Daniel Linderman in Heroes. He was the guy that owned the corporation that was funding Nathan Petrelli's political career, and also like all the testing on all the different gifted people. But he himself was revealed later in the series to have like healing powers, where he could heal anybody. Yeah. So he was like kind of the villain, not as bad as Sylar. Like not as mysterious as Sylar, but also like they would just talk. He was kind of like the Purple Man. They would talk about him, and you wouldn't see him a lot, you know. And then when he appeared, he was like so like domineering, you know, and stuff.
Yeah. Other nitpicky things that I had was you almost in the third act you almost forgot about Sam. Like I was like, oh yeah, what happened to her? You know, like
even when they flashed to her in the tube, I was like, oh yes, this girl.
Yes. I forgot that was her in the tube when they flashed it. I was like, some little boys in the tube.
Another thing is, did you guys notice all the strings?
Yeah,
all the rigs were still there.
I mean, in part, like I was able to justify them being there because they like it was like almost hey, maybe they like belayed down on that, so when they were like throwing up, they just kind of like used it to help tug them through the air. I don't know.
I didn't notice it because the TV we were watching on is like water damaged. So I think I just assume whatever I see is just part of it.
I was watching
and the sound's all like wishy-washy.
I was watching on my MacBook and I'm like, wow, oh my gosh, like that's a lot of rigs that are not removed. Didn't they have rig removal back then? Like what the heck?
A lot, especially with the ripers or what rippers when they would come through ripers.
Ripers.
When they would come through, that's when you would see.
They just fuck up your avocados.
They just ripe in everything and just ruin your whole day. And then you have to go back to Animal Crossing to feel happy, because that's life. The definitely the rippers scenes you could see the rigs. But even more hilarious, more funny for me, like, and Josh, I will get back to your list too, is the sound on this. Like even they would take audio of certain scenes and throw like a delay on it or like repeat it a bunch of times just to like fill crowd noise, and it was just like
I know exactly what they used too. Like there's this weird stereo like delay module from like the 80s that would literally like spin it around your head, and there's literally only like two guys, and it might not even be two guys, it might have been like an actual just two delays, and they're just spinning it around your head like get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so annoying.
And then there was that scene where they were all like getting high off the truth gas.
Oh, it was the nitrous
oxide.
and like it was like all the Adobe Premiere presets. You know,
of like the warps.
Yeah, it was so wild, or the coloring and stuff, you know, because they do like the negative and stuff. And it didn't seem out of place too much, but it did seem a little bit, because like the rest of the film, besides like the wiring and stuff, like it didn't seem as B movie as I thought it was going to be. And then that scene happened, and I was like, that's interesting. I guess that was their like, you know, way of like making a psychedelic experience or something.
I feel like a nitrous was like a big funny gag in the 90s.
Yeah,
I think it was in a lot of movies.
It was a big gag, man. Nitrous,
like,
any
nitrous
gas.
oxide, like it was a Tommy Boy or whatever else. Was it not Tommy Boy?
Black Sheep,
where they hit the nitrous, and there's
Road.
And what's the Pauly Shore movie? I'm pretty positive they had nitrous in that too.
Oh yeah, any of them.
There's just a bunch of movies I remember of them being like, oh, whoa, nitrous oxide is so cool. Like all my druggy friends in high school being like, it's so sweet. Like you don't have nitrous.
Dude, I remember like the older kids in the neighborhood all doing whippets and balloons. They would be selling like 3-4 balloons at a time.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend that was doing a Twitch stream, and they were talking about all the like the stupid kids doing like stupid stuff on TikTok. And they're like, when we were kids, we didn't do that. It's like, you kidding? When we were kids, we huffed like spray paint and shit. It just wasn't documented. We were equally as stupid. We just didn't have permanent record of it.
Right.
Oh, I'm so glad we didn't have YouTube back then. There's so many things that I like just remember being utterly humiliated in, and it would have been like some giant thing, been like, look at this dumb kid.
Guys,
for sure, man.
This is kind of unrelated, but I have to put it out there today. Some people might have seen it on like my Twitter or Facebook or something. I'm constantly grateful for that, like not having my teenage years on the internet. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that all the time. Anytime some kid's like, oh, they, you know, got hurt because they decided to shoot someone point blank or something for a TikTok challenge or lick a toilet or something. Like, oh, I'm so glad I wasn't on the internet when I was a kid. So I get a notification in my email that there's like somebody or maybe a group of people have taken all my high school yearbooks, not just for me, but my class, and have scanned them and archived them online.
Nice.
And I'm like, I was actually thumbing through them today, and so it prepared me well for Tank Girl for the whole aesthetic. But
I would love if they did that for Cab. Because I don't have any of my yearbooks.
It's probably there because the site I was on, I don't know how it's legal because they charge $100 for a reprint, but they take the scanned pages that someone scanned in and they print them in hardcover. I'm like, being $100, it wasn't $100 for the original one.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive that goes against whoever, like whatever company did the original one too. That's totally weird that they would do that.
I dated the yearbook girl for like 3 years of high school.
You know what's funny is they like, I know that you saw probably some of the cartoon versions of her in the movie, but you know, a lot of these covers of her have her like with these like bomb like boob bra holder things.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because they put it in the movie for like a split second, but it's like one scene. We're like, okay, you're laying down, you can't move. These things are gonna fall off probably. Like you can't walk around like, you know, you would be doing in these comics or whatever. Like,
that was another scene that was slightly I was trying to figure out what they were getting at. Was that post-coital?
yes.
Yeah.
It was,
Or
it was all cut.
And because so it's like, okay, so now she put this thing back on. But then also, like, now you have the imagery of this, like, dog kangaroo person. And this, I was like,
Did she just F that rabbit?
there's so much stuff going on.
She did. They actually cut it from the movie. Like,
Oh my God.
They said it was too much bestiality or whatever.
Well, also, I'm trying to not be too offensive here. They didn't portray that character as the sharpest.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was just like,
What was his name?
Was
Booger?
was
Booga.
that kind of like questionable, you know, to like I don't know, like
To F the retard?
As the
Sorry,
movie,
that's
like just
probably a
watching
bad
the
way.
movie, like it's kind of weird that she would be with him and not the Ice-T character. Like I always remembered her being with the Ice-T character, but like seeing this movie,
Okay.
like what 20 years later, I was like, oh,
This is an 8
she's
Mile.
with Booga. Like that's weird.
because I also got the impression that Booga might not also be an adult yet either.
Well, he
Yeah.
did say
Figure
he's
out-
part dog, part kangaroo, part human.
But I couldn't tell if he was like a teenager or like a kid, you know, like was he 10 or
I thi-
something like
I think he was just like, they messed up a little bit.
either
He's
way, it
that
was
like
just like,
dumb lovable. He's supposed to be like the dumb lovable character. Like, do you remember Airheads?
yeah.
Like Adam Sandler, like he's like the drummer to where he doesn't talk
Yeah.
very much, but like the one
Yeah.
guy's like, wow, he's getting a lot of girls, and like, oh yeah, he gets a lot of girls, like, and they're just like, oh, we love him because he's like, just a cute, honest, don't talk, like, you know, silent guy, you know, like
I forgot about that.
Maybe- dumb
maybe it's because in this one he was like dressed like a giant puppy.
yeah,
But it didn't come across to me as like a quiet, nice adult. It came across as like he's possibly a child.
Yeah.
in certain scenes, I'd say he
mentality
had a
of
little
one.
bit of that feeling, but yeah, the most of the
Yeah.
scenes, I feel like he's an idiot, like just dumb.
Okay. So did you have more stuff on your list? I think we
Oh
interjected.
gosh, let me take a look here. I think one of the last things is I loved the scene at the end where we have Jet killing the idiot dude.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, which one?
Jet.
I don't even what was it? He was Sergeant something, wasn't he? Like he was like the bad guy that was kept trying to get with Jet.
Oh, that's right.
I wish it would have been like more like a bigger like explosion or something. She just shot him like off screen, but like I don't know. I love that she went back at least to kill him.
Yeah, I'm looking up his name right now. It's Donald Patrick Harvey. He was Sergeant Small.
There you go, Sergeant Small.
And there was 2 like really great deaths. One was when Tank Girl like rolled away from the dude and pulled the pins on the grenades,
Classic move.
blew him up. That
He
was
had, he had
great.
the perfect line. He was like, "Shit."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, yeah, Jet at the end.
Like,
Just like-
I always told you, like, or F me or whatever. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I have to
was
keep
like,
saying no.
I don't want to.
And you know, I think my favorite part of the movie though was just the vibe I got. I could totally see. I was telling Josh off before we started recording. I bought Street Fighter because I thought I would still kind of like it as a dumb movie, and I rented this because I didn't know if I would like it, and I should have swapped it. Because this one, I'm not sure I would like sit down and like captively watch it again, but it definitely would just be around like if I needed to like host like some event where there needed to be a 90s theme lounge, I would just have that rolling in the background.
Absolutely.
Because like everything down to her the inside the tank,
Yeah.
like
So fun.
I don't they capture the 90s so perfectly in that.
Yes.
Wait, so much that's why I said like I feel like it was like a 2019 movie that they made about the 90s and like we're going to put all these things in here and it's going to signal, but it looked it's weird. It's something that I don't know if I'd be able to describe to somebody, but when I see it, I'm like that's a 90s like aesthetic, you know.
You're right. For me, it definitely takes me right into anime when you see her in the tank and she's bobbing up and down, but then you see all this other stuff inside of that cockpit moving independently of her. Like, it's also bouncing around, but bouncing independently of the seat that she's in and all these other things. And everything kind of like is loosely animated, like, and it's very interesting the way they transfer that from like a comic book to movie feel.
And there's stuff that doesn't make technical sense in there, but it's just part of the aesthetic. Like I pointed out, I was like, does she have an Etch-a-Sketch with Mona Lisa on there? You know, shaking tank, you know,
so
but it looks great, you know, as part of like the backdrop.
It's
Even,
such a
like,
goofy
feeding
movie. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
I'm just enjoying this hilarious, goofy 90s movie, and it just doesn't matter.
And who's the
Even
girl
feeding
with
the beer into the tank. Or the,
Oh yeah. And who's the girl with the big poofy hair they ran into halfway through the movie?
Gosh.
She was one of the obstacles on their, you know, their journey or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she popped up and like Vince, it just like went up like 5,000% more 90s. Like, because everything, it was our look, but also just the whole attitude and the banter back and forth between them.
yeah.
It was just everything was just like 90s, like, you know, jargon and stuff. It was, I don't know.
It felt good.
I
man.
like that. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who that was. Yeah.
I can't even necessarily remember why it happened. Because, like, you know, when, even though
Maybe
you
that
know,
was the chick.
everybody said like there was a plot and they followed it pretty well.
Yeah.
But damn, they did their damnedest to try to make you forget that plot. Like so much random stuff was happening.
Yeah.
Like,
It was distracting.
well, I don't know if it was distracting, but it's just like a bunch of stuff was happening. And then when they got back on their own journey, I'm like, oh right. They're trying to save that girl.
Exactly. That's what I was like. Like, she shows up and you're like, oh, right. We're supposed to be saving Sam. Like, what the
Yeah,
heck?
and also like water and human freedom and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it wrapped up like super quick and like, and we're
Yes.
happily ever after. Roll credits.
The bad guy's
It
done.
did,
Okay,
man.
let's get rid of the bad guy. He's done. Bye. You're like, what the? It was still fun, though.
Yeah.
Let's see what I was going to say here. There was, I guess the tank. Like, I wish there was more tanks in it. Like, of the tank. Her in the tank was so fun. Like, in the scenes she was in with the tank, especially when it was, like, sentient. Like, I wish there was more of that. And there
The
wasn't.
lights. I like it. She's like, you're out of ammo, and the lights go on and off.
Yeah.
It's actually two different tanks. Like, the before tank was like a Soviet tank, and then the
Right,
one
yeah.
afterwards was like a World War II era, like U.S.
And
tank.
all the 90s-esque things in there, like the cartoon
troll?
monster on the front, troll.
Oh yeah, on the front, somebody who might maybe correct me, but I thought there was an Real Monsters monster on the front. Either
Yeah.
that or a Beetlejuice
Or some Tim Martin
sandworm.
thing. Yeah. There's a lot of references to a lot of different things in this, I feel.
Yeah.
That Easter egg-wise, we could probably find a video on YouTube right now.
You know,
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
hands down to this movie for having like some of the deep cuts for the '90s music wise.
It was a great soundtrack.
Like there was like a whole song on there I hadn't heard before, and also like apparently Courtney Love co-produced or executive produced the soundtrack or something.
They wanted to have an indie band on the soundtrack, but they blew up into Green Day afterwards.
Oh wow!
So
oh,
that would have been crazy.
Yeah, they have like an early Green Day and Ice-T on the same soundtrack.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect. That would have been the most '90s.
I mean, the
That'd be
music
pretty
the
epic.
music fits so much. I guess maybe the Ice-T track didn't fit so much, but he's in the film, so it makes sense. But
I think it fit just because that whole subset of those kangaroo people were like kind of a clear
Yeah.
like metaphor for like either a black or minority community, you know?
yeah,
And so you kind of got the idea that this was kind of like the hood, you
Right.
know? And so like that music kind of being there while like whenever Tank Girl's in the tank, it's like this kind of boppy, like not ska, but like, you know, kind of, you know, like that
that brings up that whole like religion scene with the kangaroos. Where they're like,
Like
okay, we're gonna
dancing.
pray, and that cuts.
yeah, and they're dancing and everything.
I'm like, what are you doing? We're praying.
I don't know if it was on purpose or not. I mean, I was just assuming that was like part of the canon of like the comic books or something, or some reference to it. What I thought was kind of cool about that was like there was like a quiet or maybe even accidental commentary on like you just know what you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so like if the one human they ever knew taught them that that's praying, then that's all they knew. But then I got confused and like, but he used to be a cop, so and then he used to work at a store, like. Or is that not true? And then there's these, I don't know. They're like,
So like convoluted, and all the things are mixing.
but it made for a really cool scene where they got to dance together. So
yeah.
For me, it was a look into the subcultural like religion of a kangaroo who was raised by
dogs.
some random person he never met. Like, I don't know. It was just like, now, okay, so this is an interesting take on what we're seeing right now. Like, how am I supposed to process what I'm seeing.
I was kind of hoping that when they got into the what was the liquid silver
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
that all the dog people would be like, oh, so many people praying. Because that would have been a money moment because it's clearly a strip club.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, look, everyone here's praying.
This is a church?
That would have been such a funny comment.
Yeah, I feel like there were a few moments like that where they could have took advantage, but God knows.
Yeah.
You know, the Tank Girl and Jet's chemistry was surprisingly good. I wasn't convinced at the beginning.
Yeah.
But then the more they were along the ride, I'm like, oh, I get this. I could see this as a team going along, because Naomi Watts was the straight guy and Tank Girl is whatever. She was just the wild cracker.
Yeah, the wild one.
Apparently
she was
there was
kind of
$5,000 penis that was prosthetic or whatever that they were going to use to when Tank Girl and Booga were in the one scene together. But that got cut, and they were like, they complained about it a crap ton. Like, that was $5,000 to make that.
Holy crap!
it's funny because
Like a kangadong.
any of my either cosplay or prop friends in LA are just like, you need to hire me to do that for half as much. I think of friend Kaylin. She's been on Marvel stuff and everything, and she literally has molds of monster penises that she can make stuff. And it was like, I'm going to guarantee that she's not going to charge you $5,000 for it unless that's your budget,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? It
Extra
does.
veiny.
Do you remember Mallrats where you had I can't remember his name, Steve
Brody, right?
Yeah, Brody, and he's he's just obsessed with just disgusting stuff about he's talking to Stanley what is the Hulk's penis really, blah blah blah. I feel like that movie had a little bit of this movie had a little bit of that vibe in it too.
Yeah, it was a lot of kind of your dick's so small jokes and stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely so it does feel so 90s, even especially with those jokes. Even it's just funny.
And that's exactly why you all listening right now need to go watch Tank Girl.
Yeah, it's only $3.99 to rent.
Yeah,
and I think on Amazon it's $12.99 to own. If you just like 90s aesthetics and you like goofy movies, because it's to me it feels like a really well done B movie, right?
Yeah.
It's not an Avengers blockbuster, but it was done way better than I thought it was going to be based on what I had seen before.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, at the very least, it's fun to watch.
I
feel like people don't. I feel like people don't remember it in general.
I mean,
I'm already forgetting the plot as we're talking about it. We just finished watching it.
Even me, I've watched it so many times, and there are parts I forgot about too.
Yeah, I haven't seen it probably in 20 years.
I think this was my first time.
I just remember watching it with my brother a bunch of times.
Oh, that does seem something like Matt would like.
Oh, that chick, Lori Petty or whatever, she turned that because in '95 I was just a young lad, so I was definitely turned on by Tank Girl. She was ridiculous, and Jet Girl.
Cool.
So look forward to that, youngins.
Oh yeah. Well, what do you guys want to do for next week?
Man,
do you still want to do movies or?
Unless there's a ton of stuff to talk about, I don't know.
I guess I know we can definitely pick a movie, and then
y'all had mentioned the Mortal Kombat movies before, but I don't know if it's still too soon to come back to that, or save that for a later week.
Might want to save that till right before the movie comes out.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So that we can have
I guess we'll keep an eye on
month.
We'll keep an eye on the movies and see what's going on with that.
Yeah,
because it might be we watch Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and the new movie at home.
Yeah,
at the same time because we're still locked in.
I mean, that could make that could
we don't know
happen.
I was just talking to a friend today, our friend Spanky, and he was like, "How you doing?" I was like, "Good." The only thing I wake up wondering is is it just going to be tomorrow? It's going to be over, or next week, or 2 years from now? Mm-hmm. It's just not knowing the range,
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of movies from the 90s still that I don't know. Have you seen Mystery Men?
Yes,
okay,
but I would totally be down to see it again.
I've never seen Meteor Man. Is that good?
I don't remember anything from it.
I remember Meteor Man.
Yeah. Oh no, you know what? Who was in Meteor Man? I was thinking of Pluto.
Jefferson Reed and James Earl Jones. John Cheadle apparently is in it, and Sinbad.
I don't remember enough of it. I remember seeing it when I was a kid. I just can't think of anything from it.
I remember the previews and being like, I really want to see that. And my parents are like, no, it looks like it's too adult. I'm like, all right.
No, I mean it's about right up there with Blank Man.
Yeah.
Blank Man?
I don't think I've ever seen Blank Man either.
That was Marlon or Damon Wayans.
Oh, I remember you're talking about now. Yeah, he was kind of like a hobo version, and a superhero.
What's his? Why can't I remember the funniest man on earth from our not our generation, but the one right before us? Eddie Murphy. God, why can't I remember that?
Was he in a superhero movie?
I think he was Meteor Man.
No, he looks like it, but he's not. It's like Jeffrey something or other.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Well, either way, I'm sure
I'm down for mystery, man. Let's see if it's is this something I just always check to see if this is something that's like gated by the studio or something.
I got it on VHS.
See,
Yeah, it was Robert Townsend looked just like him.
On IMDb, it says it's only available on Stars. And usually, if it wasn't for a pandemic, I would say we would just Amazon Prime it. But
yeah, that's true. What about?
Oh nope, it's on everything.
Man?
It's on YouTube and iTunes and everything.
Okay, good.
Oh, actually, it's just on Hulu. There you go.
Oh, weird. Mystery Men is?
It says Hulu subscription.
Beautiful. Let's do that. That's free.
No, it's Hulu on Stars, but even then, it's still just $3.99 to like.
Is there a trial?
I don't. I mean that movie. Like I remember like having fun with it because that was kind of. Well, we'll talk about it when we see the movie. But I remember like even after the fact, like after the Avengers movies got big, I was like, this was the parody of Avengers like decades before.
What was that movie with Sean Connery? Like The
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
You know what's interesting about that movie is it's not bad enough to be good.
Yeah, but it wasn't good enough.
It was weird
to be like awesome either.
Yeah, it just was like it happened.
It had so much potential.
It sounded like a great idea,
and it actually set
up like a sequel didn't deliver on.
Yeah.
But no, Mystery Men. I remember like after all the Avengers movies got big, I was like, oh, Mystery Men was a parody of this, but it happened like way before.
Yeah.
So and I think Mystery Men kind of failed. Anyway, we can talk about it when it comes out, but when we see it. But like, that's a super interesting one especially because everybody was in it.
Yeah.
Like down the road, you're like, oh man, Ben Stiller and Kel and like, holy crap, Jeanine Garofalo and William H Macy. It's like the crap.
Kangaroo/dog men.
It's a great movie. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
I still love it.
We watch it all the
time. Yep.
Oh, nice.
You heard it here. Next week, Mystery Men and some updates because there will be some.
I'm sure there will be. Yeah.
I want to throw this idea out there, and I guess if you guys don't like it, we can just edit it out. But it'd be interesting one of these, since we're watching movies, if we watch one with like anybody that's listening, and then either like, I don't know, maybe do like a Zoom chat or something or some audio chat. You know what I mean? Like with a handful of other people or something. That might be kind of cool. Yeah.
I mean, it might be cool to get together with like with a Zoom chat kind of thing.
I don't know how all those pieces work together because the podcast is pre-recorded.
Yeah, we would pre-record it, but it would be like kind of a special thing. So either in addition to, or like.
So we're there listening to the podcast with them. You mean?
No. I mean, like we all of us decide to see a movie, but instead of just being me and you and Josh on our own times, like watching the movie and then doing this, everybody watches the movie at a set time, and then at like half an hour after it's over, we all get on Zoom. We're like, "Did you see this shit?" Like. And then we just record it and then throw that out as a special thing, or even just have it to talk to whoever's listening here, that wants to join in, because now we have something that we're kind of all sharing together, and we all like mean to like whenever we talk about a movie, you're like, okay, over the course of the week we'll see it. In reality, what happens is an hour before the podcast recording, we all watch the movie.
It's true. We're like,
and then we go do it.
Oh, we got to push the podcast back. It's not over yet.
Yeah, and it's fine because it's still fresh in our memories. Because I honestly don't know how much of this I would have remembered about Tank Girl. Tomorrow.
I try to take a little bit of notes.
But yeah, no, Mystery Men sounds good. It is 2 hours and 2 minutes. Holy moly, that's longer than I remember. But yeah, let's do it.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Check out Yellow Spandex next week, and we'll see you later.